Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are strapping in for a ride that is, quite frankly, a little bit louder, a little bit faster, and a whole lot more chaotic than our usual fare.
That's putting it mildly.
We are looking at a figure who essentially wrote the rule book on rock and roll excess.
And then, arguably, tore it up and rewrote it for the reality TV generation, and then rewrote it again for the internet age.
Exactly. We are talking about a man known just as much for the tabloid headlines. I mean, the whirlwind marriages, the arrests, the leaked tapes, as he is for his undeniable technical prowess behind a drum kit.
Absolutely.
We are diving deep into the life of Thomas Lee Bass, better known to the entire world as simply Tommy Lee.
It is a fascinating case study, and we have a massive stack of sources here today: biographical records, discographies, legal histories, media summaries. And our mission, really, is to peel back that bad boy image. We want to understand the musical evolution, this relentless need for reinvention. I mean, from glam metal to rap rock to becoming an electronic DJ, and, how his tumultuous personal life really defined an era of celebrity culture.
It's such a wild story, and honestly, when you look at the raw data, the image you have of Tommy Lee, the tattoos, the leather, the screaming fans, it actually starts in a place you would never expect.
Right.
It doesn't start on the Sunset Strip. It starts in Athens, Greece.
That is right. He wasn't born in Hollywood. He was born October 3, 1962 in Athens. His birth name is Thomas Lee Bass. And his parentage is this really, really interesting mix of discipline and glamour right from the very start.
Okay, let's unpack this family tree, because it feels like it explains a lot about his future. His father, David Lee Thomas Bass, was a sergeant in the U.S. Army.
Correct. So you have that military structure, the discipline, the order, a very regimented world.
And then on the complete other side of the spectrum, his mother, Vasiliki Voula Papadimitriou, was a contestant in the 1957 Miss Greece beauty contest.
Talk about a genetic intersection, right?
Yeah.
You have the rigid structure of the military on one side and the world of aesthetics, pageantry, performance, and, being in the spotlight on the other.
It's incredible. So when did they come to the States?
The family moved to the U.S., specifically California, when Lee was about 2 years old. But you have to wonder if that duality, the sergeant and the beauty queen, played a role in his psyche from day one.
It's the classic nature versus nurture debate, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have the drive for this, regimented precision, this almost military drumming style.
Fighting against, or maybe working with, the drive for the spotlight, for the showmanship.
For the spectacle.
Exactly. And the music started early. The sources say he got his first drumsticks at age 4. That is barely out of toddler's clothes.
At 4 years old, most kids are, playing with blocks, and he's holding the tools of his trade.
And he got his first proper kit as a teenager. But here's the detail that always, and I mean always, gets people. The detail that just doesn't fit the Mötley Crüe persona.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this. It's not the rock club, is it?
Not even close. It's the high school football field. Tommy Lee was a marching band kid.
Get out. Really?
Yeah.
The guy who spins upside down in a cage was in the high school marching band.
He attended Royal Oak High School and was right there in the percussion line, the drum line. And if you think about it musically, it makes perfect sense.
How so?
Well, marching band drumming requires incredible precision, stamina, and, rudimental skill. It's not just bashing away. It is incredibly technical. You have to be locked in with, 10 other people perfectly.
That is a great point. It explains why, even amidst all the chaos of his later career, the beat was always solid. He wasn't just a thrasher. He had actual legitimate training.
Precisely. And at the same time, he was soaking in all the rock gods. He was listening to Led Zeppelin, Van Halen, Cheap Trick, Kiss, AC/DC, all the greats.
And his idols. Who was he trying to be?
His drumming idols were John Bonham, Tommy Aldridge, Alex Van Halen, and Terry Bozzio. So he was soaking in that big theatrical arena rock sound, but he had that disciplined foundation from school. It's a killer combination.
But obviously the classroom couldn't hold him. He dropped out of Royal Oak High to pursue music full-time.
He did. He left in his senior year to focus on his band.
And he started hitting the L.A. club circuit.
This was the late 70s, early 80s, the Sunset Strip. It was the place to be. He was in a band called Sweet 19.
Sweet 19. That is just the most perfectly era-appropriate name I can imagine.
Isn't it? And they were playing alongside these rising acts like Van Halen and Quiet Riot. This was the incubator, the primordial soup for what became glam metal.
Right. The whole scene was just exploding right there.
And this is where he physically transformed too. He earned the nickname T-Bone because he was 6'2.5" 2.5 inches tall and incredibly lean. He was this striking, larger-than-life figure even before the fame.
So he's on the strip, he's got the look, he's making a name for himself as a drummer, and then he meets the guy who would become his partner in crime for the next few decades.
This is the pivotal moment. Nikki Sixx.
What was Sixx doing at the time?
Nikki Sixx was playing in bands like Sister in London. He was already a known quantity on the scene. And Sixx had a vision. He didn't just want a rock band. He wanted a theatrical experience. He was borrowing from, occult imagery, shock value, Kiss, Alice Cooper.
He wanted the whole package.
The whole package. He saw Tommy Lee play and realized this is the engine. This is the drummer.
So what happened? Did he poach him from Sweet 19?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
When Sixx's band London broke up in 1981, he and Lee decided to form a new band together. They had the rhythm section locked down.
And then they found Mick Mars.
Right. They put an ad in the paper, loud, rude, aggressive guitarist, and Mick Mars answered. So they had the bass, drums, and guitar, but they needed a singer. And this is where that high school connection comes back, right?
The marching band pays off again.
It does. Lee remembered a casual acquaintance from Royal Oak High School, this charismatic blonde frontman named Vince Neil, who was playing in a cover band called Rock Candy.
So Tommy recommends him.
Yep, he recommended him. Neil came in for an audition, and that was it. Mötley Crüe was born.
It's just amazing how serendipitous that is. Just 4 specific guys in L.A. at that specific time, and suddenly they're forming a unit that would basically dominate the entire decade.
And the rise was, meteoric doesn't even do it justice. They released their debut album, Too Fast for Love, in 1981 on their own independent label, Leather Records.
Leather with an umlaut, of course.
Naturally. It's a requirement. And it sold, I think, around 20,000 copies just on its own.
Which is huge for an indie release back then.
Huge. And a guy at Elektra Records heard it, saw them play, and signed them almost immediately. He reissued the album in 1982, and then, boom.
The floodgates opened.
Completely. Shout at the Devil in 83, which went 4 times platinum. Theater of Pain in 85, Girls, Girls, Girls in 87. And then the big one, Dr. Feelgood in 89, which was their only album to hit #1.
They were essentially printing money and platinum records for 10 years straight. They were the kings of the decade.
Absolutely. But it wasn't just the music, was it? We touched on this earlier. Lee wasn't content to just sit back there and keep time. He had to be the show.
He had to be the center of attention, even from the back of the stage.
This is where the Terror Twins nickname comes in for Lee and Sixx. They were the engines of chaos. But on stage, Lee revolutionized what a drum solo could be. It wasn't just about the notes. It was about gravity. Or, defying gravity.
A spinning drum kit.
The spinning drum kit, the revolving drum kit. He had a kit that could be suspended on a track above the crowd and go end over end.
I remember seeing footage of that. It's insane. He's upside down, playing the kick drum, blood rushing to his head, just wailing away.
It is performance art mixed with heavy metal and, like, an amusement park ride. It was dangerous. Things went wrong. He got stuck upside down once.
No way.
Yeah, for a while. But it was part of the appeal. You didn't know what was going to happen. And of course, there was the lowbrow humor. He was known for mooning the audience at nearly every show.
Classic.
It was this perfect mix of high-tech, expensive stagecraft, and just, juvenile rebellion.
And the offstage lifestyle was, well, decadent is a very polite word for it.
Decadent is the word the sources use, yes.
Yeah.
The book they wrote, The Dirt, it's legendary for its honesty about that period. Excessive amounts of cocaine, heroin, pills, alcohol. They were living the lifestyle that most bands only pretended to have in their songs.
And that kind of pace is just not sustainable. You can't live at that speed forever.
No, and it started to show. The band started to fracture. The music in the 90s changed. Grunge came along, and the whole scene they had built just kind of vanished overnight.
So what did they do?
Well, they tried to adapt. Vince Neil left. They got a new singer, John Corabi, made a much heavier album in '94 that fans, well, they didn't really embrace it. They got Vince back, but the dynamic was broken. And the timeline of breakups and reunions from then on it's complex.
Let's walk through it. So Tommy Lee actually quits the band at one point.
He does. Lee officially left the band in 1999 after the Greatest Hits tour. He was burnt out on that specific dynamic. He wanted to do something new.
Which we'll get to. But the allure of the crew is strong. They can't stay away from each other for long, can they?
They can't. They reunited in 2004 for the Red, White, and Crüe anthology and a massive reunion tour.
Which made a ton of money.
A ton. $33 million gross. They were number 8 on the top concert money earners list that year. But the friction remained. The old problems didn't go away.
And it blew up again.
It did. In 2007, Nikki Sixx publicly announced Lee was out of the band after a lawsuit involving Lee's manager, Carl Stubner, over conflicts with reality TV shows that Tommy wanted to do.
So it was a business dispute.
A business and creative dispute. But then, to make it even more confusing, Vince Neil immediately denied the resignation and said Tommy was still in.
So nobody even knew if he was in the band or not.
For a while, no. It was classic Mötley Crüe chaos. But they patched it up again. They came back with Saints of Los Angeles in 2008, and then the big farewell tour in 2014.
Ah, yes, the one where they literally signed a contract on stage saying they'd never tour again.
A legally binding cessation of touring agreement.
Which, as we know, didn't stick. They eventually tore it up and returned for the stadium tour.
It just shows that the bond, or perhaps the business model of Mötley Crüe, is stronger than any of the interpersonal conflicts.
Now, I want to pivot a bit because you mentioned he left in '99 to do something new. And while Crüe is the headline, Tommy Lee has always been a bit of a musical chameleon. He didn't just want to stay in that glam metal box.
That is a crucial insight into who he is as a musician. If you look at his solo career, he is constantly trying to break the mold. He's always chasing the next sound.
And the first big break was Methods of Mayhem.
Right. In 1999, think about what was happening in music then. Rap metal and nu metal were exploding. Korn, Limp Bizkit.
That was the sound of the moment.
And Tommy didn't fight it. He embraced it. He formed Methods of Mayhem. That was a huge departure. I remember people being really, really confused. The Mötley Crüe drummer is rapping now.
And who was involved in that project?
He collaborated with a rapper named Tilo, and the style was pure rap metal. It was very of the moment. It was a clear signal that he wasn't just the girls, girls, girls guy anymore.
And he kept pushing that with his solo records.
Absolutely. His solo album, Never a Dull Moment in 2002, had a lot of that rap metal sound, but it also started to bring in electronica tones. He had a song called Blue with a guest vocalist named Rudleen Getzik that was, very atmospheric and different. He was experimenting.
Then came Tommyland, The Ride in 2005.
Which was actually the soundtrack to his book of the same name. And then his latest, Andro, from 2020, continues that exploration of different genres. He's never stood still musically.
And then there was that whole supergroup phase with Rockstar Supernova. Do you remember that reality show?
Vividly. This was 2006. This was peak reality TV era. And the idea was to form a supergroup with these legendary musicians.
You have Jason Newsted from Metallica on bass and Gilby Clarke from Guns N' Roses on guitar.
An incredible lineup. And they used the TV show Rockstar to find their lead singer.
Which they did, a guy named Lucas Rossi.
Correct. And they actually recorded an album and went on tour with that lineup.
It's wild. Did they bring the other contestants on tour too?
They did. They included the runners-up like Delana and Toby Rand as opening acts. It was a fascinating moment where, old school rock credibility met this brand new reality TV format.
And we can't ignore his DJ career. He really genuinely dove headfirst into electronic dance music.
He did. This wasn't just a hobby. He partnered with DJ Arrow, also known as Chester Dietz. They went by the name Electro Mayhem.
Electro Mayhem, okay.
And they were legit. They debuted on the main stage at the Ultra Music Festival in Miami back in 2004. That's a huge deal in the EDM world.
So this wasn't just a rock star pressing play on a laptop?
Not at all. They toured with Deadmau5 in 2011. Lee was taking it very seriously, performing with guys like Sharam from Deep Dish.
It's impressive. Most rock stars from the 80s just stick to playing their old hits. Lee was out there spinning house music.
It speaks to a genuine curiosity about rhythm, about the beat. It doesn't matter to him if it's John Bonham or a drum machine or a four-on-the-floor house beat. Lee seems fascinated by what makes people move.
And that curiosity leads to some really surprising collaborations. He's popped up on some records where you just would not expect to see his name.
For sure. Like, in 2014, he played drums on almost the entire Smashing Pumpkins album, Monuments to an Elegy.
That's a collaboration I never would have guessed.
Yeah.
Billy Corgan and Tommy Lee.
Right. But it works. And then, much more recently, he played on a Post Malone track.
The song Over Now in 2018.
Exactly. And that Post Malone connection is key. It shows he's still relevant, that he's still on the radar of the younger generation of artists. He's also worked with Nine Inch Nails, Rob Zombie, Jack's Mannequin. The list is incredibly eclectic.
He bridges that gap between generations.
Absolutely. He does.
Now, we touched on reality TV with Rockstar Supernova, but Lee was actually a pioneer in that space way before most celebrities jumped on the bandwagon.
He was. In 2004, he starred in and produced a show called Tommy Lee Goes to College.
The premise was exactly what it sounds like, right?
It was. The whole show was him enrolling and attending classes at the University of Nebraska. He tried out for the golf team. He studied chemistry.
And bringing it full circle, he played in the marching band there.
He did. He joined the drum line. It must have been completely surreal for the other students. Hey, isn't that the guy from Mötley Crüe next to me in the tuba section?
But it showed he had a sense of humor about himself, about his image.
Totally. And he did another one in 2008 called Battleground Earth.
This one I don't remember.
It was an eco-friendly show on the Planet Green channel, of all places, and he co-hosted it with the rapper Ludacris.
Wait. Tommy Lee and Ludacris saving the planet.
It's a real thing that happened. They would challenge each other to, like, green-themed competitions. It was an odd couple pairing, but it showed he was willing to try anything.
And he's done some acting too, right? Not just playing himself.
Yeah, a few things. He had a guest spot as a professor on the TV show The Goldbergs. He played the devil in a musical horror podcast called Halloween in Hell. And he was a strip club DJ in a horror movie called The Retaliators.
It seems like he's just very, very comfortable in front of a camera, regardless of the context.
I think that's fair to say. He understands the media game better than almost anyone.
Which brings us to the part of his life that arguably garnered the most camera time, whether he wanted to or not. His relationships and his life in the tabloids.
Yeah, this is a dense section of the biography. Lee has been married 4 times.
It was the first.
His first wife was Elaine Starchuk from 1984 to 1985. A very brief marriage right as the band was taking off.
And then came the big one, at least for the 80s.
Heather Locklear. He married the actress Heather Locklear in 1986.
That was the ultimate 80s power couple. The heavy metal drummer and the primetime TV sweetheart.
It was. You'd see them everywhere in all the magazines. They were together for 7 years and they divorced in 1993. The book The Dirt goes into that relationship in a lot of detail.
But the relationship that really defined an era of pop culture was his marriage to Pamela Anderson.
Without a doubt, the timeline on that is just, it's wild.
It's insane. How quickly did it happen?
He met the Playboy, Playmate, and Baywatch star in February of 1995. They got married just 4 days later.
4 days. That's beyond impulsive.
It is the absolute definition of a whirlwind romance. They had 2 sons together, Brandon Thomas Lee and Dylan Jagger Lee. But the relationship was incredibly tumultuous, just a constant storm.
The timeline is messy.
Very. They officially divorced in 1998, but that was just the beginning. They had bitter custody battles that went on until 2002, and they had several brief reunions and breakups over the years after that. It was a constant on-again, off-again saga.
He was also engaged a few other times, wasn't he?
He was. He was engaged to a model named Bobby Brown before he met Anderson. He was engaged to Prince's ex-wife, Mate Garcia, from 2002 to 2003, and to a singer named Sophia Tufa for a few years.
And he's married now.
Yes, his 4th wife is the social media personality Brittany Ferlin. He proposed on Valentine's Day 2018, and they got married on Valentine's Day 2019.
But going back to the Anderson years, right in the middle of that storm was the tape.
The sex tape. Yeah, we have to discuss this because its cultural impact was and is immense.
What's the story behind it?
Yeah.
The sources are pretty clear on this.
It was a private home video. They videotaped it on a houseboat on Lake Mead during a vacation. In 1995, their safe was stolen from their home.
And the tape was in the safe.
Correct. The story that has since come out is that a disgruntled electrician and former porn star named Rand Gauthier, who was doing work at the house, stole the entire safe.
And he found the tape and saw an opportunity.
He saw a huge opportunity. And you have to remember, this was before streaming, before broadband was even common. The internet was still kind of the Wild West.
Right.
A company called Internet Entertainment Group, or IEG, got a hold of it and released it in 1997. It became the first true example of viral pornography. It spread like wildfire.
And what was the legal fallout?
Anderson sued IEG to try and stop it, but it was too late. The cat was out of the bag. They eventually reached a settlement, but the sources say Lee and Anderson never received any money from it.
It's crazy to think about now, but that tape really changed how we view celebrity privacy, the internet, and what was possible online.
It was a complete watershed moment, and it's something that has followed both of them for their entire lives, recently dramatized in that Hulu series Pam and Tommy.
Now, we have to move into the more serious side of things. We can't talk about the chaos without talking about the consequences. And there are some very dark chapters here.
Yes, and it is important we handle these factually, based on the legal records. The bad boy image often glosses over real legal and ethical issues.
Then the first major one is a domestic violence conviction in 1998.
That's correct. This was involving Pamela Anderson. He pleaded no contest to felony spousal abuse.
What were the details of the incident?
According to the reports, he kicked her while she was holding their infant son, Dylan. The altercation was apparently over her refusal to call her parents and ask them not to come over to the house.
And she was injured.
Yes. The reports state she was left with bruises, a torn fingernail, and she told police she was in fear for her son's safety.
And he served time for this.
He did. 6 months in county jail. And it's a stark reminder that the rock and roll lifestyle isn't a fantasy. It has real victims and real-world consequences.
And he got into more trouble after that jail time.
He did. In 2000, he served another 5 days in jail for violating his probation by drinking alcohol.
Then that wasn't the only serious legal issue. There was the incident with the swastika tattoo.
That came to light also in 1998. It stemmed from a 1996 incident where he was facing a lawsuit for battery. He and Nikki Sixx were accused of attacking a Jewish photographer outside the Viper Room in L.A.
Okay.
During the civil suit depositions, it was revealed that Lee had a swastika tattoo on his arm.
And what was the explanation for that?
Lee's camp claimed it was a stupid tattoo obtained several years ago out of drunken ignorance, not a reflection of any Nazi beliefs. His lawyer argued strenuously that showing it to the jury would be unfairly prejudicial.
But it became a huge story.
A massive story. He eventually had the tattoo removed, but it was a major controversy at the time.
And there were other riots and fights, things that went beyond simple rock star antics.
Yes. The Greensboro riot in 1997. During a concert in North Carolina, Lee and Nikki Sixx allegedly made racial remarks to a black security guard, then poured beer on his head, and instigated the crowd to attack him.
And they were arrested.
They were arrested and charged with inciting a riot and assault. The charges were eventually dropped, but it was another ugly incident.
Then there was the very public feud with Kid Rock.
Right. In 2007, at the MTV Video Music Awards, it was a full-on brawl in the audience during the show.
What was that about? They both have a connection to Pamela Anderson.
That was reportedly the source of the tension. Kid Rock was cited for assault after the incident. It just seemed like for a long period, trouble followed Lee, or he actively invited it.
There was also a terrible tragedy at his home in 2001 involving a child's death.
A truly awful situation. It was during a birthday party for Lee's son, Brandon. A 4-year-old guest, Daniel Carvin-Veers, was found in the pool and later died. He had drowned.
And the parents sued him.
They did. The parents sued for negligence. It went to trial, and a jury ultimately cleared Lee of responsibility in April 2003. They ruled it was a tragic accident, but legally, he was found not liable.
It really is a life of just extreme highs and the absolute lowest of lows.
Yeah, it is. But then you flip the page in the biography, and you see him writing these passionate letters for PETA.
This is the complexity of the man we're talking about. He's a staunch supporter of animal rights.
Very much so. In 2010, he wrote a scathing letter to the president of SeaWorld protesting the treatment of Tilikum, the orca involved in the death of a trainer.
What was his specific argument?
He was appalled by the sperm harvesting methods they used on the whale and argued that the animal's aggression was a direct result of the frustration and misery of captivity.
And he took on the Calgary Stampede as well.
In 2013, yes. He wrote an open letter to the Premier of Alberta regarding the deaths of horses in the chuck wagon races at the Stampede.
Do you remember what he said?
He had this really pointed quote. He said something like, "It was a time when cowboys respected their horses instead of riding them to death just to show off."
That's a surprisingly thoughtful and, articulate take from the guy who was famous for instigating riots.
It shows that people are rarely one-dimensional. There are always these contradictions.
So, bringing us up to the present. What is his legacy now? The Mötley Crüe movie, The Dirt, came out on Netflix in 2019. That had a huge impact.
That movie really reignited interest in the band's history, for better or worse. It introduced them to a whole new generation. And Lee is still very much active, still making music, still touring.
And he's still connected to the drumming world in a very deep way.
Poignantly so. In 2022, it came out that Lee had a phone conversation with the Foo Fighters drummer Taylor Hawkins just hours before Hawkins' tragic death.
Wow.
Yeah. Lee called Hawkins "my dear friend" and later appeared at the big Kia Forum tribute concert in Los Angeles to honor him. He's still part of that community.
So what does this all mean? We've looked at the Athens birth, the marching band, the Sunset Strip, the spinning drum kits, the platinum albums, the jail time, the reality TV, the activism.
Mm-hmm.
How do you tie it all together?
If we synthesize this, I think we see a man who is a perfect mirror of the media landscape he lived through. He started in the era of vinyl records and rock radio,
Mastered the era of MTV and the music video.
pioneered the celebrity reality TV show, and became the subject of the first major viral internet video.
And is now navigating the streaming era with Netflix biopics and collabs with Post Malone.
He really has surfed every single wave of pop culture for the last 40 years.
He's always managed to stay relevant.
And he did it by being loud, by making noise, whether that noise was musical with a drum solo, legal with a court case, or relational with a tabloid headline.
It brings us to a final provocative thought. In a life that has been so defined by noise, by spectacle, has the larger-than-life character of Tommy Lee overshadowed the musician? Or is the spectacle itself the true art form he created?
That is the question, isn't it? Is the drumming the main event, or is the drumming just the soundtrack to the ongoing 4-decade-long performance art piece that is Tommy Lee?
Something for you to think about next time you hear Dr. Feelgood or Home Sweet Home on the radio. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time.